Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Diamond Hands podcast. Today we have a special treat for you. We are here with Omar Shaban. He is the Senior Manager of Evolux Marketing at Evolus. Welcome.
Thanks, Leslie. It's a pleasure to be here. Really excited.
Yeah, so are we. California is so gorgeous. You guys have this beautiful space. You're doing so much in the industry.
First of all, we love the fact that, our office caters to aesthetic people coming out and taking a look at what we have to offer, the unique opportunities we have. And we look at it as a showcase for people like yourself to come out and see the unique opportunities that we have.
Yeah, definitely. It's like the space is beautiful. I really want to get into who you are. So this dapper gentleman here, we're going to get into his background a little bit. So just want to, ask you, tell me a little bit about your background. I know that, I heard a little birdie say that you used to be in broadcasting yourself. Do tell us about some of that and your trajectory.
Yeah, so this whole podcast experience actually brings back quite a bit of nostalgia for myself because after college, I did undergrad at UC San Diego, and the first thing I did after was I was a sports radio broadcaster in San Diego.
Wow.
So very, very different career. I used to do the San Diego Padres pregame and postgame radio shows.
Yes.
By the way, the fans used to hate me because I was a Dodger fan, so it made for a lot of good banter on the radio.
Yeah.
But back then, this was in the pre-podcast era.
Yes.
So I know I'm dating myself here as I tell you it was a pre-podcast era, but it was that was my start as far as post college. But then I wanted to go the more corporate route. I was interested in using my degree, which was economics.
Yes.
From
wow,
UCSD.
economics. Okay.
I became a trader for a while.
Wow.
So very, very, very different route after a while. And then I knew I wanted to get into healthcare.
Yes.
And healthcare marketing in the long run. So I went to business school. I got my MBA at Notre Dame, which was an amazing experience.
I can imagine.
I got my feet wet as far as some cold weather goes because I was a California kid my whole life.
Wow.
And that was some interesting winters. That's for sure in the Midwest, to say the least.
Yes.
And then after Notre Dame, I worked for McKesson for a few years.
Tell us more about McKeston.
So McKesson is, for those of you unfamiliar, it's one of the biggest drug distributors in the country, Fortune 15 company, $120 billion market cap. I was on the finance side.
Wow.
And when you get recruited out of MBA programs, is many times they want you to get experience in many different parts of the business.
Yes.
So they will move you from city to city and business unit to business unit every 6 months.
Wow.
So you get a lot of experience, but you have to be very adaptable in that stretch. So that was a great introduction for me into healthcare. And McKesson is a great company. They certainly are, a company that, I certainly learned a lot as far as the healthcare space, but I knew that I wanted to get into the product side, which was, much more interesting than the distribution side. And that led me to come back to Southern California after working in the Bay Area and Houston for a while. And I came back to Southern California, and I helped a Danish company called Abena launch their products here in the U.S. They were doing wound care products and incontinence products. And that in itself really taught me how to build companies and how to work in a company that is building structure. So that in itself, really amazing experience. And you learn a lot as far as how companies in international do business relative to the United States. In Europe, completely different way of doing business than they do here, in particular in Denmark.
So for you, what would you think was, when you see how business is built and everything, what would you say were some of the biggest differences that you found with how, foreign companies build as opposed to, a U.S. startup? What kind of differences?
Yeah, in the case of Abena with a Danish company, a little bit more conservative, a little bit more cautious, and I think in the U.S. I think you see more companies that are a little bit more aggressive as far as their investment before they would see a return on something.
That's interesting. I mean, well, I don't want to go down that. It could be a rabbit hole in itself. But yeah, so like, after you did, Abina, like, what was your pathway towards Evolus, which is a relatively new company in the space?
Yeah, so I knew I always wanted to get into aesthetics. It's just a really dynamic business, a lot of very interesting people, as I'm sure you have met.
Yep.
Between the products and the people, that's what makes it really interesting.
Yes.
And I knew a lot of folks who had constantly pushed me to get into aesthetics, but the difference was that the timing was never right in my career, given where I was. But after helping a company that was essentially a startup in the US build here, and being able to latch on with Evolus in a pre-commercial phase, that was something that made a lot of sense as far as the transition went.
Yeah.
So that was a great opportunity for me, and I was blessed that opportunity came along.
Wow, that's so great. So Omar, tell us a little bit more about Evolus.
So Evolus is an aesthetics company. We are the makers of Jeuveau. It's a parabotulinum toxin A, better known as a neurotoxin, as most of you know it as. It is for the treatment of moderate to severe frown lines in adults. For our safety information, you can find that at jeuveau.evolus.com. And we're also very, very focused on both technology and millennials. Millennials are the next generation of patients that are
100%.
coming into practices. And so we want to do whatever we can to speak the language of performance beauty, speak the language that millennials are accustomed to in that performance beauty space, because it's a very underpenetrated market. And it's one that we believe that given our focus, our singularity and focus, that we have a big competitive advantage in, and one that a lot of providers that are coming into the space would naturally gravitate toward us as well.
I mean, I think that's quite interesting because, even when I look at, my podcast stats and things like that, because my podcast, a lot of people who are coming into the industry are listening. And it's like 25 to 34 is the average age of my listener. And it's like, nurses are now going to school and they're saying, I'm going to nursing school to become an injector. Don't know how I'm actually going to get into that trajectory, but that's what they're going to school for now, instead of saying, I'm going to school and I'm going to get into the ICU or something like that. So I'm seeing definitely a change. And, some of my younger clients that I've seen, they've been only in nursing for 2 years and they jumped out already and they're in aesthetics. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, it's a field with a lot of opportunity.
Yeah.
And granted, there's also a lot of competition too.
Oh yeah.
I mean, now we're in a space where there's 40,000 injectors in this country, and there are we face competition just like all of the injectors do.
Yeah.
And if you walked into a doctor's office, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whether you walked into a gastroenterologist's office or you walked into a dermatologist's office, it wouldn't matter.
Yes.
The experience for the patient was the same.
Yes.
They could not tell the difference. Now a patient is looking for a completely different experience
100%.
wherever they go. And for us, we want to help providers figure out what that experience is and make it unique and give them that competitive advantage for every time the patient walks in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's so important that you guys are doing that because, I surveyed over 200 med spa owners from around the country, and guess where most of them said that they have that weakness? The marketing, the social media. And that's like a huge issue because, when someone's trying to be a visionary and they're trying to be a practice manager and they're trying to be the injector all at the same time, especially when they're starting, it's really difficult. And having that support from a brand like yours is really, really amazing, I think. And so kind of leading into my next question there, your competitive advantage, it's like, do you believe that what you guys are doing in the marketing space is your real competitive advantage? And if not only there, where else do you think you guys compete and you're really advantageous to injectors?
Absolutely. I think the marketing space is first and foremost. I mean, we are doing things in aesthetics that nobody else is doing.
Yeah.
In the past year, we launched a billboard campaign with 1,000 billboards across this country. And when we started, I think a lot of people asked themselves, well, why billboards? Because billboards aren't really a millennial strategy, but we realized that digital marketing is something that, as you alluded to, a lot of providers are still learning how to use it and still learning how to grasp its effectiveness and the most effective digital marketing campaigns. Well, the reality of it is billboards actually enhance your digital marketing. So the idea is really to create an ecosystem around practices as far as marketing goes. This is what's known as the omni-channel approach.
Yeah.
Where you've got a lot of different channels where you're building impressions. And you can do that through billboards, but you also do it at the same time by having Google AdWords campaigns, having banner ads campaigns, even doing streaming television campaigns, which we're starting to dive into.
Yeah, I've seen some of those. So cool.
Yeah. But all of those things I think are huge competitive advantages because so many of our competitors aren't able to promote the product the way we are and be able to provide those unique experiences with that type of advertising.
Yeah, and and that's such a point, like an amazing idea, but how did you come up with it? Was it just you or was it your team? Like, tell us about that creative process.
Well, so on the billboard side of things, as I said, there was nobody else in the space who was doing that. And so myself and our VP of Omnichannel, Jose Beaumont, we wanted to test this idea of doing a co-branded billboard, and we did early on, in the fall of 2020, and it took off.
Wow.
We found that people were driving by, and you could target them with ads, and we found that it was helping the performance of the digital ads, and it was creating a lot of brand awareness for folks. And everything always starts with brand awareness.
Yeah.
So that as far as the ideas go, we have some folks at Evolus who are incredibly creative and incredibly accomplished in the space. And I'm fortunate to be able to work with them and to share those ideas and to enhance them.
Yeah, and another thing about branding and something that I want to speak to too, it's like sometimes as a med spa owner or someone starting out, you might think, oh, I'm not going to see my return on investment right away or what have you, but those intangible things make a huge difference for your brand because it's like top-down marketing, a top-down approach. Like if I see an injector on a billboard and I see them on television and then I see they also have a really nice website, social media presence, video, whatever it is, I'm going to be more inclined to go to them over someone that has no presence at all. And so I love that you guys are, investing into your providers in that way.
Well, that's just it. I think the one thing that people have to keep in mind is it's not just about creating one marketing campaign and just having, a campaign or advertising efforts here and there. You have to keep in mind you always have to have that presence out there.
Yeah.
And for us, we have to keep in mind that 90% of millennials are on social media.
Oh, yeah.
And half of digital consumers are doing their research online.
Oh, yeah.
Also, this is going to scare a lot of people when I say this, but on average, it takes a new consumer 7 times to see an ad before they take action.
You heard that?
Chances are they're only seeing it 1 in every 4 times.
Yeah.
Which means, and I know we said there would be no math this early in the morning, but that takes 28 times before you're actually going to take action, which means you have to have a presence online in many different channels. And that's what we try to do, like I said, with building that ecosystem around the practice.
Yeah, and that's so great. Repetition, repetition, repetition. They're not going to remember that you said, come into my med spa the first time, the second time, the third time, the fourth time, the fifth time, the sixth time. Maybe the 7th time.
They saw it the first 7 times.
Exactly, they saw it the first time, but it's not going to make an impression. So it's like for those of you who are not posting consistently and not keeping up with your brand presence, you have to continue to ask your audience because they're not going to trust you that first post. They need to see you showing up consistently every day. And when you're doing things like this and co-branding with brands like this, you're putting yourself in a better position to elevate your brand in your market, whoever you're trying to reach. Yeah, that's really great.
Well, Leslie, the good news is, as far as posting goes and the consistency of posting,
Yes.
we partner with a company that's called Livebox.
Okay.
They're based in Laguna Beach,
Okay.
right here in Laguna
Yes.
Beach, California, up the road. And this company was started by a former aesthetics nurse injector. And with this technology, one of the benefits you get by working with us is you get the ability to access a platform that you will create content for you and schedule that content regularly to post. You can customize the content as well. It's got complete access to all of our digital assets. So that is a regular occurrence. So it's not something you always have to worry about. Oh, I got to post here, I got to post there. Your posts and your content is automatically scheduled for you.
That's amazing. That's so amazing.
Big
I love
advantage.
that. That's a huge advantage. And what would you say that, aesthetics has taught you, after being in the business these last few years?
Well, more than anything, I think it's taught me communication. You have to really up your level of communication with all of your customers. As I'm sure you know with many of the aesthetics providers that you work with.
Yes.
The folks in this industry make it very interesting on a daily basis. There's a lot of creativity.
A lot.
But also figuring out how to harness that creativity is something that's a challenge. And I think upping the communication between those customers and really figuring out what their business needs are and how to solve them, I think that's the biggest thing that it's taught me is communication and problem solving.
Yeah, I think that's great. And, it's kind of continuing on that, communication, also expectations, because, I think a lot of people are used to just like fast-paced things, especially working in a hospital setting or have you. And then when they come into this field and you have to slow down and really think about your strategy and what you're doing before you just go and shoot from the hip, because it could be detrimental to you in the long run.
Of course. But it's such a tricky balance too, because the speed at which things change in this industry is tremendous. I mean, look at how we viewed TikTok a year ago. I mean,
Are you dancing?
I've been working on a few dances. I've got to admit.
I'm waiting.
I did try a few. I don't think that was part of the podcast.
Waiting on the content.
Yeah. They're not FDA approved yet, but
God.
but no, I mean, we looked at TikTok a year ago, and we said that TikTok is just for kids. Now TikTok is where the next generation of your patients are going. Yeah. And all of a sudden, everybody wants to put their digital ads on there.
Yeah, it's a huge thing. I know, even all these different platforms, and there's this one person in particular I know, and they made $1.7 million just from posting consistently about something on their LinkedIn every day for 2 years. I was like, what? I was like, what am I doing?
Yeah,
change some things.
And now it's the influencers that go along with that.
Yeah.
And I think we looked at influencers before saying, influencers are only just consumer influencers, but now you have influencers in the aesthetic space as well that carry that much impact. Yeah. And that's something that I think is probably the next phase of our marketing that we're looking to unlock.
Oh yeah, definitely. I know because I personally, you guys know who I associate with. There's just there's some people that have over 100,000 followers, and they have Patreons, they have this, they have that, and so not only are they capitalizing on their clients and helping them, to get the standard of beauty that they want, but then they're also really influencing these newer injectors as to how they're practicing, as to what they're doing, and they're capitalizing on a whole nother market in their businesses. It's interesting.
It is, and it goes back to what I said about having half of digital consumers doing their research online and getting that validation from those influencers. Yeah, I mean they look at those influencers as saying, look, that's a brand that I want to get behind. That's
Yeah.
a person I want to get behind and a brand that I want to get behind. So it really makes a big difference.
Exactly. And, I would ask you to, what advice would you give to, a provider that's, getting into the aesthetics industry and, they're getting their feet wet. They really don't know what they're doing yet. What advice would you give to them?
Well, I think that the one thing you have to keep in mind is how can you differentiate your patient experience? If you're a patient today and you're walking through the door, what is the biggest advantage that you can provide them that nobody else can? What products and services, and as far as a service level and experience, can you provide them that nobody else is? So I think it's really important to think about some of the unique marketing opportunities you might have. And that, of course, includes us as well,
Yep.
Naturally. And keep that in mind, because really getting into this space is not just about, hey, what products can I add, but how can I bring in the next generation of patients to my practice? And as long as you're always forward thinking with that, then I think you're going to be successful in aesthetics.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. Tell us, what do you do for fun in your free time? All the free time that he has, guys.
The limited free time I have.
On planes, like all the time. I'm like, what are you doing? Oh, I'm in this town. I'm in this state. I'm like, okay. So tell us.
Yeah, aside from on a plane half the time. No, I love working out. I'm actually on a serious health kick right now.
Yes.
I've got to tell you. I do HIIT workouts in the morning.
Okay.
And I do boxing. But I have to tell you, though, I have not had the guts to get in the ring yet.
Do any of you guys want to fight him?
I've only done a little bit of light sparring with a coach, but not really anything. I'm not fighting Mike Tyson yet. So.
Wow, you're about to see you on TV somewhere, like Omar Shaban, like coming in 150 pounds. Like, I think I know him. That's so great.
Yeah, if the aesthetics thing doesn't work out, I guess I have boxing to fall back on.
Very nice, very nice. That's great. So Omar, this has been such a pleasure having you on the show today, hearing a little bit more about your background and everything. And so, I look forward to seeing what you guys are going to be doing in the future, and let everyone know where we can, find you on the internet. We're going to place everything in the show notes, guys. So you could say it, but it'll also be in the show notes.
Well, in this day and age, the first thing you have to point to is digital media, right? I talked so much about it. So you can find me on Instagram at Shabanigans, and naturally on LinkedIn at Omar Shaban, and please feel free to reach out to me, and happy to talk about opportunities that you can have, unique opportunities that you can have by partnering with Evolus in the aesthetic space, and really helping launch your new aesthetics practice and getting it off the ground. We provide for you plenty of tools. We also provide for you a team of marketing specialists that can work one-on-one with you. And these are millennials themselves that know millennial marketing. They know how to get the right messaging to those customers and bring that next generation of patients to your practice. So I highly encourage you guys to reach out and take advantage of really unique opportunities that you won't have by partnering with anybody else.
All right, awesome. Well, Omar, it was a pleasure.
Thank you, Leslie. It was truly a pleasure, and like I said, this brought back a lot of nostalgia for myself.
Yeah.
And was really enjoyable.